We call Lori Daybell the Doomsday Cult Mom. She was convicted in Idaho for the murders of her two youngest children, 7-year-old Joshua J.J. Vallow and 16-year-old Tylee Ryan, as well as for conspiring to kill her fifth husband's first wife, Tammy Daybell. In July of 2023, she received 3 consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole. Prosecutors argued that Lori Daybell's extreme religious beliefs, which included apocalyptic prophecies and labeling her children as zombies, motivated the killings. The children's remains were discovered in 2020 on her fifth husband, Chad Daybell's property in Idaho. Following her Idaho convictions, Lori Daybell was extradited to Arizona, where she faces charges for conspiring to murder her fourth husband, Charles Vallow, in 2019. Prosecutors allege that she collaborated with her brother, Alex Cox, to kill Charles and claim his life insurance money. Lori Daybell, representing herself, did not present any evidence or witnesses in her defense, and today was her last opportunity to convince jurors she did not do it. All the evidence is in, the arguments have been made, and it's time to hear from the jury. I'm Vinnie Politan. Thank you so much for joining us tonight here on Closing Arguments. Another big day. A lot happening at Court TV. Big trials. Let's start with Lori Daybell. No evidence. Presented no evidence in her case. Like zero, nothing. Not a witness, not a document, and not taking the stand to tell the jury her story. You know, in cases of self-defense, that is the one time you expect defendants to testify. Now, this isn't her own self-defense, it's her brother's defense of others, but she was there. She could tell the jury exactly how scared she was, how frightful she was. She could have explained everything. And there's no demand that she testify. There's no instruction from the judge that's going to say she should have to testify. But when you're claiming self-defense, you're telling a story about a moment in time. And she's the only one that survived that day. She's the only one that could give the jury that firsthand account in the courtroom, live. Look them in the eyes and tell them what happened. But she didn't. She ended up with a pretty normal defense here, which is like they didn't prove it. They didn't prove their case. And that's standard. There's nothing wrong with that. It's very standard. It could have been executed a lot better by an attorney than she did, but it was a pretty normal defense, which brings me to a question here. Like, what was the point? What was the point of her representing herself here? Why did she do it? You know, you have an opportunity to have free attorneys who know their way in and around a courtroom very, very well. They know the judge, they know the rules of evidence. You can help guide that defense. You can be a partner in that defense, and that's what we're seeing in the Karen Reed trial. But she chose not to. What was the point of all this? What was this an exercise of? Does she really want to win? Does she just want to talk? I don't get it. Because we didn't see her get up there and, you know, talk about the zombies and try to gather the 144,000. We didn't see any of that. There wasn't an extremely vigorous defense at all. No witnesses, no evidence. Like, what was the point of all of that? Why? Well, I don't know. The bottom line here is the jury's going to get the last word in all of this. I guess they'll tell us, you know, maybe she was effective and I'm just missing it. But it just seemed like a lot more could have been done, a lot more would have been done with a lawyer. Is the point to win? Like, I don't get it. But it will be up to that jury. And joining us, Court TV legal correspondent Kelly Craft, who was inside the courtroom today and is joining us live from Phoenix, Arizona tonight. Yeah, Kelly, a little bit of a head scratcher for me. Like what was the point of all of this? But bring us up to speed to today. What happened once the jury got the case? What did you see from the jury today? And once they got the case, what happened today?
Well, hey, Vinny. Well, the point of all this, someone might be able to say, is that Lori's case is being appealed in Idaho. So if for some reason that was to go back to court and she was to be found not guilty here, that would be a really interesting scenario, Vinny. So we're just going to have to see what happens in that case. But Arizona, when they extradited Lori back here from Idaho to Arizona, they said they wanted her to be in court and to face these charges to find justice for the victim, in this case, Charles Vallow. So we did have the closing arguments today. I will say when Lori walked in and then she walked up to deliver her close, she smiles at the jury. When the state was delivering its closing, Lori sat there. She did not do really any, if I could have seen correctly, any note-taking at all. She had her close down. She was not going to adjust it at all based on what the prosecutor had to say in this case. But what happened, Vinny, is so the closings ended, and then the jurors went back and kind of began to deliberate. But before you know it, I was standing outside the courtroom downstairs a few floors, and I started to see the jurors one by one walk right by me. And I turned around and I looked and I thought, okay, what just happened here? So what happened is the jurors decided to go home for the day, to come back and start deliberating tomorrow. They're due back here at 10:30 a.m. local time, so 1:30 p.m. Eastern.
Yeah, the day of closing arguments and instructions, everything else, it's usually a long day for jurors. So if they get it at the end of the day, unless we're down in Florida where they keep them till midnight, I guess a lot of jurors, it's kind of smart to go home. You come back fresh in the morning and you start off. So let's dive into a little bit of the big moments and the big highlights. Let's start first with the prosecutor. What did the prosecutor have to say?
Vinny, the prosecutor delivered a very extensive closing argument. She used a PowerPoint. She talked about all the people that knew, according to her, knew that Lori and Alex conspired to kill Charles Vallow. She said they knew and they were right. She pointed to Adam Cox. She played some testimony of his. She pointed to Nancy Jo Hancock. She pointed to, that was Nancy Jo Hancock, is the woman that went out on a date with Charles the night before he was killed. She also pointed to Christina Atwood, who was a once friend of Lori Daybell. So the prosecutor continued to weave in testimony into her closing argument. Let's play a clip for you.
We know that Lori Vallow is living in a house paid for by Charles Vallow. We know from even her statements to Detective Enclan that she doesn't like Charles, is what she says, but Charles won't file for a divorce. We know from her words and text messages that she wants to be with Chad Daybell, but Charles is her cash cow. She hasn't worked. He pays rent, car, cell phones, her travel. And so, as far back as June 9th, we're already hearing that Alex and Lori would like to not just get rid of Charles, but kill him. Charles yelling and screaming at her to give his phone back does not justify you shooting him. Or a person is not justified in using or threatening deadly physical force if the defendant or co-conspirator provoked the other's use or attempted use of unlawful physical force. So we know here Lori provoked Charles by taking his phone and refusing to give it back.
The prosecutor really talked a lot about Lori not giving the phone back. She said it was words and actions by Lori Daybell that leads to the fact that she did commit conspiracy with her brother, Alex Cox, and she pointed to text messages, in particular the one, Vinny, in which she texted after Charles Vallow had died, and she texted with Chad, "We got rid of him."
All right, let's talk about Lori. Again, she chose this role. She chose to represent herself. What about her closing argument today?
A lot of objections from the state, Vinny. Also, at one point, the state said that Lori was testifying. She chose not to take the stand. So she did have to deal with a lot of objections in her closing, but she was very straightforward, and you can tell she had this closing argument down, most likely rehearsed. I was watching the jurors as she was delivering that closing argument. You can tell their demeanor has really changed throughout this trial, in a way changing from not so much believing maybe what was being said by Lori, like in her opening, to now some of the jurors were sitting her during her closing with their hands crossed. Let's listen to a bit of that.
We heard a lot in this trial about the Book of Mormon prophet named Nephi. This is the state's evidence to murder over self-defense, and it is utterly ridiculous. We heard from Detective Duncan, who admitted on the stand that he had no idea what I meant in the text message when I said, "We will be like Nephi." In Mormon culture, Nephi signifies strong faith, perseverance, and courage.
Right. Sustained.
The state's attempt to misconstrue the positive text message about a wonderful religious figure, Nephi, and try to turn it into an order to kill someone is absurd. This is an attempt by the state to try to retrofit a crime that doesn't exist. This event was not a crime. It was a tragedy. Don't let them turn my family tragedy into a crime.
So, Vinnie, you heard Lori there talking about the text messages that she sent, she said this in her trial, throughout the trial, that they were speculating, the detectives were speculating as to what those text messages mean, and that they should not be construing them to fit this crime.
Okay, and how did prosecutors wrap things up with the rebuttal?
Talked about this was an execution of Charles Vallow, and also talked about that text message that she sent to her soon-to-be husband, Chad. Daybell, let's play a little bit of the rebuttal.
Execution of Charles Vallow is not a family tragedy. There is nothing that you can say about shooting a man as he lay on the ground that you can try to construe in any way to make that a family tragedy.
That's how the state wrapped this up, Vinnie, and we'll be back here at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time as they deliberate, and we'll wait for a verdict.
One final question. What don't they know about Lori? Just so I'm clear, what don't they know about her and her past?
A lot, Vinnie. They do not know that she was convicted of the crimes that she was convicted of in Idaho, which is huge. So they do not know that. And so a lot of people were chatting outside the courtroom tonight saying, gosh, if they came back with any other verdict besides guilty and then found that out, how would they feel? But so they don't know that about Lori. What they do know is exactly what was presented during this trial. And so they're going to have to make a decision on that.
All right, Kelly Craft. In a verdict watch tomorrow, all day. Thanks so much, Kelly. All right, let's bring in our think tank. Joining us tonight, criminal defense attorney, former prosecutor Al Wunsch III. Also with us, criminal defense attorney Darnell Crossland and family law attorney Jennifer Brandt. Welcome to everyone. Al, what do you think about this jury? So they went home, just quick few moments of deliberating today, sort of the end of their day. But there's a lot that they don't know. There's a lot that they don't know. How much of a difference does that make for this jury? You know, Lori's first jury was like 8.5 hours for the double murder and conspiring to murder Tammy Daybell, which they don't know about, but that jury took about 8.5 hours. What are your thoughts about the job that this jury has in front of them?
Well, okay, the fact that they don't know, makes this a perfect trial. Okay, this is what the trial is all about. This is what they're looking at, just this incident. They're not basing it on what's happened in the past. They're not basing it on what crimes she's previously committed. So they're looking at this perfectly square in quote unquote virgin territory. So under the circumstances, it's ideal. And it's going to demonstrate the wonderfulness that is the United States jurisprudential criminal trial process, where we go in and justice is blind, and we put the case on and we convict based on deeds and evidence, not on past history. So, you know what? This is going to be an ideal situation. Do I think that she has any chance of, getting away with this? No. I mean, I thought that the state put a case that could have been kind of difficult, wrapped it up perfectly in the summation. And, the text messages really just, once they came in, you could just basically just write the jury verdict right from home. You don't even have to come in for that. They could do it virtually.
Darnell, let's talk about the jury. And in the other trial, the jury got the whole story, right? And we've been covering this story for years. Personally, it took me about 4 months of covering it to try to understand it, because it's very layered. There's a lot to it. In this particular instance, this is sort of towards the beginning of all of the things that would unfold. But if you really look at it, from the big view of it, it's all connected. To me, I have a difficult time separating the murders from one another, because they're all done for one purpose. The murder of Tammy has the same purpose as the murder of Charles, as well as the murder of the children. It's about money. It's about changing who you're with, getting and starting this new life. And I don't know if this jury has a complete enough picture, because when you just take a slice of Lori Daybell, I think you can almost misinterpret Lori Daybell.
Well, a couple things. Well, one, I have good news for you, Vinny. Your cold is on the back nine. I'm an expert at this. I can hear it's coming out. It's on its way out. So
thank you.
Congratulations on that. Yep. I hear it. You sound good again. So in terms of my legal expertise and my analysis here, what I will tell you is that while I agree with Al, when you have a trial, you don't want anything that's going to be highly prejudicial introduced into the trial that's not relevant to this particular trial. However, if you know, like the prosecution knows, who Lori Daybell is and what she's done in the past, you can connect those things together and introduce them without introducing the actual other case. For instance, she knows that her motive is about money. She knows that she's self-centered. She knows that it's all about her and what she can get. So with that being said, the prosecution, I think, did a good job of trying to paint her in that light without even mentioning the other trial. And that's the best you can do without violating the rules of jurisprudence, as Al just mentioned.
And Jennifer, we talk about relevance. That's a call that someone makes, whether something's relevant. It's not black and white, right? Sometimes there's a little bit of gray area. And I understand separate murders at separate times, but they are all tied together. This isn't even like a serial killer, because to me, it's one master plan that is laid out by the prophet and his blonde hair, blue-eyed future wife, right? They're going to be together. And to get from point A to point B, all these things have to take place. And the jury doesn't know that. I'll tell you what those people were talking about, if I was a juror and then I said, oh, this is not guilty, and then I found out all this other stuff, I would not be happy.
That's right, Vinny. I don't see how they can't come up in this trial. I think these other murders are highly relevant, because, as you said, it all links everything together. And think about this. I mean, if we look at this case in a vacuum and forget everything we do know about Lori Vallow, Daybell, it may be a little bit more difficult than Al and Darnell think. I don't know if it's a conviction, because really, yes, you have those text messages and they're troubling. I get that. But besides that, she's claiming self-defense. She's claiming that Charles Vallow threatened her, came after her with a bat. Her brother killed him. I mean, we really, if you can just set aside all that we do know and pretend we don't, it's a bit of a more difficult case than I think we're making it out to be. yes, when you put everything together and you do connect the dots, clearly I don't think she has a shot. But if these jurors really don't know anything about her past or what she's been convicted of or how everything fits together, I think it's a little bit more difficult than we're making it out.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. That's why I'm a little weary. I think they come back. I think maybe they got the full flavor of her. All right, here's the good news. Think Tank staying with us. When we come back, we'll take a look at Lori Daybell's closing argument. Plus, coming up next hour. Tonight on Vinnie Politan Investigates, we're on the eve of opening statements in the retrial of the century. Karen Reed accused of murdering John O'Keefe. Was it murder or was Karen Reed framed? Tonight we dive into the evidence and get ready for the trial.
Join Court TV's Vinnie Politan with the latest and breaking true crime stories.
Now, let's look at the other side of all of that.
Vinnie Politan Investigates, tonight, 9/8 Central, only on Court TV.
Is Karen Reed a killer girlfriend?
She's guilty.
Or the scapegoat in an elaborate cover-up?
Karen Reed was framed!
We know who did it.
The Karen Reed murder retrial. Live coverage weekday mornings, 8, 7 Central on Court TV.
Your gut is like a... Why does the state want to blame someone for this tragic event? What evidence did the state show you in this trial that I wanted harm to come to my husband? We learned in this trial that I was praying for my husband. We learned in this trial that even though my husband and I were having marital issues, that we were both trying to do the best things for our son with special needs, JJ. We learned in this trial that I was shocked that Charles had changed his life insurance policy, but I was not angry as the state alleges.
It's wrong. To me, it's wrong. Like, she murdered him. She murdered JJ. And she's talking about, oh, I wanted to do the best thing for my son with special needs. You murdered him. That's what I'm afraid of. This jury being misled by this woman who's testifying without taking the stand and is talking about motherhood. Convicted child killer, talking about motherhood. Ooh, let's take a listen a little bit more of the closing argument from Lori Daybell today.
The Chandler Police Department did treat this event just like it was, self-defense and a tragic family event. We learned in this trial that Charles and I were obviously having marital problems. Regardless of what was happening in our marriage at the time, on July 11th, this was self-defense. When Tylee came out with the bat to protect me, her mother, Charles did not have to take the bat from Tylee and start swinging. At 62 years old, Charles had a choice that day and could have put the bat down. A 2-minute period changed our lives forever. How are you supposed to choose between 3 people you love? Your husband, your daughter, your brother?
Testifying at this point?
All right, hold on. All right, I'll caution the defendant not to testify about things that were not entered into evidence.
And that's what she's doing. She's testifying. Still with us, Al Wunsch, Darnell Crossland, Jennifer Brandt. Darnell, I think she knows what she's doing, right? Hey, you can't cross-examine me. I'm just going to say what I'm saying. I'm going to try to testify. And it becomes misleading to this jury. You know, we do all this stuff to protect the defendant. Well, we're not protecting the truth in this case. That's my concern, because she's, again, playing the role of the doting mother of this special needs child who she murdered.
Yeah, so I keep hearing you echo in my head. And so you've been on this for a minute now, and now I'm going to cross over to Team Vinnie. I don't know the exact local rules, but I do know that if you know someone is lying as a defense attorney or prosecutor, you can't put them on a trial and elicit a lie, because that's suborning perjury. So I think maybe we're getting real close to that, even though she's a pro se. If she's convicted as a convicted killer and she's painting this picture, she's basically putting herself on the stand and she's lying to this jury, lying to this court someone could make a motion and say she's hold her in contempt for suborning perjury, and basically not even suborning it because it's not through someone else. Technically, she's through someone else because she's her own lawyer, but she's basically lying. So I wouldn't be surprised if maybe in post-trial motions that someone brings this up, because that's what you're getting at. You're getting at how can she stand here and lie? And we can't do that. We can't even elicit lies from other people, and we can't lie ourselves. Al is shaking his right-sized head. I didn't say big head.
Go ahead, Al.
I said right-sized.
Go ahead, Al.
Okay. Well, first of all, this is a closing argument. She's not being sworn in. She is giving her argument, which, I mean, could be interpreted as testimony, but it's not. It's not sworn. Okay, so I don't know what, Darnell's bringing up with regards to same. She's giving it a shot. She's obviously realizes that she can't go forward with it. She doesn't argue on anything with regards to the objections that are put down. And, it's like the old motto, try some, lie some, Nephi, faux fum, and she's trying to get that by the jury. It's, her opportunity to give her statement, for her to testify without testifying, and she got caught. Justice has been done. The prosecution did a nice job with their objections. Generally, you got to remember, you don't object during a person's closing under most instances.
Well,
okay?
Yeah, but hers, you have to. She's testifying.
Yeah.
She's just...
and in this case, her objections were all sound objections, not designed to cause her to lose her place in her statement or whatever. They were all good, grounded objections, and they were sustained.
Al is supporting someone lying, Vinny.
So, Jennifer, here, and then it gets back to my big picture, Jennifer, which is the jury. The jury, we bring these poor people in, we send them a notice, and then we want them to get to the truth, and then we do all these things to hide the truth from them. Then they get misled by Lori Daybell, who's doing her shenanigans, and all of a sudden, this trial no longer is a search for the truth. This is like, how can this jury possibly figure out the truth? Because she's testifying. They're not going to unhear what she's saying, and she could impact one or more of them. And it's just not right. It's not right. They should let the stuff in. Let them know the whole story.
Right, Vinny. I totally agree. And while the prosecutor may have made valid objections, Lori, the words that Lori said are already out, and the jury cannot unhear them. And while they're supposed to ignore them and disregard them, they're just people that are sitting on this jury, and they're hearing what she's saying, and they're not knowing the whole picture and thinking, hey, what's going on here? This sounds like this could be plausible. I mean, they're picking on her. They're saying she conspired for murder, but she's just saying she's protecting her family, and she's not doing anything wrong, and she was being threatened by, some guy who was acting crazy. So, you can feel for her if you really don't know what's going on. And by the way, Vinny, I can't imagine that the jury doesn't know about this, because it's been all over the place and in the press. And it's amazing that they found people that claim that they know nothing about her and her past. But, so be it. If that's the case, then, I'm not so sure. A valid objection or not, she's up there telling her story without actually being sworn in and testifying. And the jury really maybe doesn't really understand the whole picture. So we'll see what happens.
If I can just say, if Jennifer's correct, then that means they found people who could lie more than Lori Daybell, Vallow.
Yeah, exactly. Let's take a listen to more of the closing argument.
We learned in this trial that Alex fully cooperated with law enforcement. We learned that my daughter Tylee fully cooperated with law enforcement. We learned that I fully cooperated with law enforcement. We learned that law enforcement treated all of us that day kindly and courteously on July 11th, 2019. That law enforcement treated us that day like this was self-defense. We were not given instructions to stay in town. We were not given instructions that we were under investigation of any kind. On July 11th, 2019, we were interviewed by Chandler Police and released with no further instructions. We learned that Chandler Police put out a press release that day on July 11th.
I'll sustain that objection to the extent the jury is to determine what the facts did or did not establish.
Under Arizona law, I had the right to self-defense. Tylee had the right to self-defense. Alex had the right to self-defense.
Again, amazing, talking about, you know, Alex's rights and her daughter's rights. She and Alex killed her daughter, like that, and we're all talking about self-defense. Like, the one she needed to be defended against is Lori and Alex. They're the killers here, Darnell.
You know, the idea is here is what we've all been touching on, is when you deliver this closing argument, you have to tell a story. And the other thing we have to remember is that the burden is on the state to prove beyond a reasonable doubt. Not beyond all shadows, but really high burden. So she doesn't have to put on evidence. And so she sort of testified a little bit because there's latitude given to pro ses. But here she's just basically painting a story that under Arizona law, she has a right to self-defense. And unless the story of the prosecution is so compelling that the jury finds that they've proven beyond a reasonable doubt, she will walk. And so Jennifer might be onto something. In this particular case, we can't convict her based on the other cases. It's only on this case. And she's trying to make that story. And I think she's doing what she's supposed to do.
All right. Well, how compelling was the prosecution? When we come back, we'll take a closer look at the prosecutor's closing argument. Did she seal the deal?
When we think about her religious beliefs and what she's been telling people about not needing to repent, about telling people who is dark and evil, a zombie or a Z, that she is above the priesthood, it makes sense that she feels justified in determining who should live or die, just as she told her brother on the 9th. And we know that, in fact, we're talking about a justified killing because Alex brought a gun over. He didn't bring the Book of Mormon to talk to Charles about something. He didn't bring a friend to try to record Charles saying something. He brought a gun with him. And then he waited there for his sister's husband to come into the house so he could kill him.
That's the prosecutor, Trina Kay, delivering her closing argument for the jury, trying to prove to this jury, with the limited information they have about the true story of Lori Daybell and her brother Alex Cox and Chad Daybell, trying to prove that they murdered Charles Vallow. Let's take a listen to a little bit more.
Why did Charles stay in the house? Lori told the detective that Charles initially was like, oh, I'll just stay here for 20 minutes and then I'll take JJ to school. Well, she wasn't going to kill him in front of JJ. No, take JJ to Burger King. Get him out of the house. Go put him in the car. And he does that. But then she takes his phone. And she won't give it back. What she told the detective was, before this alleged Tylee bat, whatever thing you want to talk about there, that she had Charles's phone and was asking him about texting Adam. Of course, that's interesting because how would she have known that? But we know she had the phone actually for a while before she did that interview. She tells the detective numerous times that Charles is telling her to give him back his phone, and she will not. That she's walking around. He's trying to get the phone. She won't give it to him. Why? Because she needs Alex to come out. He brought that gun over for a reason.
He goes back in, I wouldn't give him his phone. He was screaming at me to give him his phone. He was very worried about whatever was on his text that he did not want me to see. And so I was just holding it there, and he was screaming at me. and I was kind of walking towards around the house with it, so he couldn't get it. He's like reaching for it and stuff like that.
So again, JJ's in the car, Tylee's not out, Alex isn't out, and she is making sure that he doesn't leave. She's walking around the house, holding his phone, refusing to give it to him, making sure her autistic child is sitting out in the car even longer so that she can ensure that exactly what they've been planning happens, that Alex has time to come out with the gun that he brought over and shoot and kill Charles. This defendant is the only reason why Charles didn't leave with JJ.
And that was the plan that day, right? Charles was supposed to come pick up JJ and have him for the day. He's in the car. Why is he still in there? Jennifer, what do you think about this story that is being woven by the prosecutor, which kind of leads to all these actions are being done as part of the planning, part of the conspiracy?
Well, I think she's trying to connect the dots and make the story make sense, which, you know, in knowing what we know now, yes, it does make sense, you know, that she provoked Charles and, you know, taunted him by holding his phone. But, you know, Vinny, I do family law, and I can tell you that stuff like this happens all the time. People take each other's phones. People do anything that they can to aggravate the other person, to get under their skin, to provoke them. Doesn't mean necessarily that they're conspiring to murder them. But, you know, this is what people do when they're having marital difficulties. So that in of itself, I'm not sure that necessarily means that she was intentionally doing that. I mean, we know that, or we think that we know why she was doing that, but just on its face, not sure that's enough. It is troubling that Alex had a gun with him, but, you know, did he usually carry a gun? Was this something different, out of the ordinary? These are the things that the jury is going to want to know, people are going to want to know in order to convict her on this crime. So.
Al, let's take a listen to the prosecutor talking about the bat and the physical evidence here.
We know from the physical scene itself that Charles did not use a bat. We know from the physical evidence of Alex's 1-inch cut to his head and the lack of blood or concussion, the lack of damage to the mirrors, the walls, the location of the bat in relation to Charles, they all tell us that Charles did not use a bat. We know that Charles was a semi-professional baseball player. This would not have ended that way if he had had a bat.
All right, Al, are you convinced by that? Because I find that very compelling. And I don't know how many people have seen the pictures of Charles. He's a big dude, like a really big dude.
AAA is professional baseball, and which means that, you know, if you're going to hit somebody with a bat, that's not the guy you want hitting you. I mean, this is a guy who knows how to use a bat, knows what bat speed is, knows how to swing, okay? And if he hit this guy in the head, he's not getting up. He may not even have a head after a shot by a professional baseball player with a bat. It's a lethal weapon in the hands of somebody that can swing at a ball coming at you at 100 miles an hour. So there's no way that he swung this bat and hit him in the head and didn't leave a concussion. I can't imagine that, you know, even if you swing half speed on a bat, you're going to give somebody a concussion. So there's no way he swung that bat and hit him in the head. There's no way at all.
You know, Darnell, if they really wanted to set this up better, rather than trying to set it up like Charles is hitting Alex in the back of the head with the bat, maybe like have Lori take a swing and break a rib.
Well, let me just back up a little bit. You know, speaking of a swing, the prosecution, to me, that was a swing and a miss with a cell phone, because I just had two people sitting right here in this chair in my office, and the woman is allegedly the victim of strangulation or choking, a fight, as domestic. And I just venture to say, well, what happened? Well, there was something in his phone where he was talking to another woman. So I venture to say, how'd you see that? Well, he went to the bathroom. Well, guess what? Women's hands are like magnets to men's phones. So it's not unusual. I think pretty much 99% of women can't help themselves but to grab a man's phone. So that was a swing and a miss, to just mention that she deliberately provoked him with the phone. And she set this all up by taking his phone. Pretty much, you know, if they're not taking your phone, then you're not in a relationship. So I think that was a swing and a miss.
Jennifer, in the relationships you've evaluated, are the women more likely to grab the phone?
I think it's equal opportunity. Everybody's grabbing at everybody's phone. Oh, no, Darnell, you don't do it. You don't see it enough.
Come on.
Men grab
All the
phones
women in the
just as
audience,
much as
please
women.
send your protest
100%.
letters. Send your protest letters to right up to Connecticut. Okay, Darnell Crossland, the male chauvinist. I mean, unbelievable, unbelievable.
Okay.
You snitch, Al. You snitch it.
So Jennifer, at the end of the day, the jury went home. Let's do a little prediction here on how long you think they'll be out. It's like a week-long trial, 7 days of testimony or so. I think it could take a while. I really do. I think there could be 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 jurors who don't agree with the others. You know, some are like, well, you know, is it reasonable? Is it another reasonable explanation? Maybe it's reasonable, and it might take some time for them to go through this. What do you think, Jennifer? You think tomorrow's the day?
I think tomorrow's the day, Vinny. I don't think Lori, I mean, she didn't put on any case. The prosecutor did a very nice, although we're picking it apart, I think she did a very nice job of putting everything together, presenting the case. I think the jury will be back tomorrow.
All right, we are out of time. We shall see. I think tomorrow's the day. I just don't think it's going to be too early. I think it's going to be after lunch. Al Wunsch, great to see you. Darnell Crossland, looking good. Jennifer Brandt, always awesome. We'll see you next time. When we return, I will reveal something else you need to know. Plus, coming up next hour. Tonight on Vinnie Politan Investigates, the countdown to the retrial of the century continues. Karen Reed on trial for the murder of her boyfriend, John O'Keefe. Tomorrow morning, our opening statements, and the nation will be watching. And tonight, we are breaking down the important evidence.
Join Court TV's Vinnie Politan with the latest and breaking true crime stories.
Now, let's look at the other side of all of that.
Vinnie Politan Investigates, coming up next, only on Court TV.
Is Karen Reed a killer girlfriend?
She's guilty.
Or the scapegoat in an elaborate cover-up?
Karen Reed was framed!
We know who did it.
The Karen Reed murder retrial. Live coverage weekday mornings, 8, 7 Central on Court TV.
Welcome back. Time to reveal something else you need to know tonight. Let's take a look at the big board. And guess what, folks? Another verdict watch here on your front row seat to justice. So tomorrow morning, we've got 2 cases where deliberations will be taking place. This one involving Jose Morales, charged with murder and tampering with physical evidence for allegedly beating his girlfriend Christine Holloway to death back in 2019. Holloway was found dead. The couple's 1-year-old daughter, baby Vanessa, look at that, so cute, still missing. So keep your eyes on Court TV. We've got a verdict watch that will begin at 10 a.m. tomorrow morning, Connecticut versus Jose Morales. We could be a double verdict Tuesday. All right, before we go, please take a look at your television screens. We have a missing child who needs your help. This is Zachary Brian Bailey, missing since April 9th of 2025, missing out of Huntington, West Virginia. If you see Zachary, pick up the phone, make a call, make a difference. You can call 911, 1-800-THE-LOST, or you can call the Wayne County Sheriff's Office in West Virginia. That number is on your screen right now. Let's see if we can get Zachary to a safe place tonight. Don't go anywhere. We've got another hour of live true crime. We're going to dive into the Karen Reed trial, which begins tomorrow as well. In the meantime, please don't forget to hug the kids.